Hey everybody. Over the past several months, I've gotten a few questions emailed to me about the Phiesen Doubleday editions and the Holdorf Doubleday editions. You may be completely familiar with what those terms mean. You may have heard them mentioned before, read them somewhere, and not know the history of these editions. So in this video, I'm going to talk specifically about the Phiesen and Holdorf editions, including a bit of history around how they came to be, my thoughts on them in general, and also general thoughts on value. And as a collector, what you should be looking to pay, what a good deal would be if you find one of these in the wild. So this video is all about Phiesen and Holdorf. So in 1990, Doubleday released the complete and uncut stand. This was a big deal with a big publicity push. And to go along with the release of the complete and uncut stand, they also re-released Stephen King's first four books. So that's Carrie, Salem's Lot, The Shining, and Night Shift. Pet Sematary, according to a Doubleday catalog, an image from a Doubleday catalog of 1990 announcing these editions. According to that, Pet Sematary was still in print. And I think the impetus behind re-releasing the books is because the original ones had well, bigger, bigger than this. The original ones had a shorter trim size, and re-releasing the books, they re-released them at a larger trim size, so they would be a more standard size and would fit in really nicely with the entire Doubleday series. So the artist Jim Phiesen was commissioned to create artwork for the first four books. In an interview I read with him, he was talking about painstakingly creating artwork for all the books, but particularly he was talking about The Shining, and he made a painting of an image of an axe chopping the word red rum into a door, and he showed it to Stephen King, or Stephen King weighed in on it and said, "That's a great image. I really like the artwork, but there's not an axe in my book." And that is taken from the movie, the Stanley Kubrick movie, which have become so inextricably linked in the pop culture imagination. So he had to go back to the drawing board, literally, and create new artwork for The Shining. But anyway, I don't have these books, but I am going to show them now. So here, first up is Carrie. Here is Salem's Lot. Here is The Shining. And here is Night Shift. So the books were released in 1990. I like the variant is interesting to me, and I'm so familiar with looking at the first edition jacket artwork. I do like the variants, but these four book jackets, the artwork has always seemed kind of dated to me, and there's something about the style that and the color scheme used in the books that just isn't all that scary to me. However, I would I've done a lot of reading and research about what constitutes an edition of a book, and this is kind of where things get confusing. And I've not seen definitive proof that Doubleday considered this to be the case, but new trim size in the Phiesen editions, completely new dust jacket artwork, new design, new style. Those are usually the benchmarks that constitute a new edition of a work, even though there wasn't any additional text included that I'm aware of. So in my mind, the Phiesen editions are the actual second editions of the first four Doubleday books. There was a stated second edition of these early books published in the UK at sometime in the 80s. So to me, the Phiesen is the complement of that. Completely new style, completely new design, completely new production, and to me, that constitutes a second edition. The original edition, the original release, was being published well into the 80s. I had copies from the mid 80s, and they had identical production design as the original first edition. So that very clearly, they're all of a type. And then everything changes with Phiesen. So if you're somebody who likes to have not only variants but very varying editions of similar titles, then you might want to look out for these. They were published, like I said, in 1990. They were supplanted in 1993 by the Holdorf editions, which I will get into in a minute. So the Phiesen editions they were published for a much briefer span of time than the Holdorf or than the original edition. So they can be kind of hard to find. And I would say if you found one just in brilliant condition in the wild or online, just like truly mint condition, I would say $50 it would be a decent deal. Less than $50 would, the farther below $50, the better the deal. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of these books for sale that have quite a bit of fading to the dust jackets. I guess they were prone to that with those solid colors that they had. So I would say $50 for a really, really nice copy, and just working your way down depending on condition. So that is Phiesen. I'm going to move on now and talk about the Holdorf editions. So let me take a minute and let me show you the Holdorf jacket artwork as well. So we start with Carrie, Salem's Lot, The Shining, Night Shift, The Complete and Uncut Stand, and finally Pet Sematary. So I know in 1990 why Doubleday re-released the first four books. It was to go along with the publication of The Complete and Uncut Stand. But in 1993, they re-released all six Doubleday books, including The Complete and Uncut Stand, in a matching set. Now remember, in the Phiesen only covers the first four books. The Stand had a completely different jacket artwork style, and Pet Sematary presumably was still the original style that was available from 1983, was still available in 1990. But in 1993, all six Doubleday titles were re-released in the standard larger trim size with matching dust jacket artwork. And this artwork was by Thomas Holdorf. The design, the style for some of the books. So this is, like I said, it kind of gets confusing. So the first four books, very clear to me, second edition in Phiesen, the dust jacket artwork and the style of the books themselves, the color scheme of the boards, the cloth, everything changes again in 93 with the Holdorf editions. Potentially that could be third edition. For the Stand, the only thing that changes from what I can tell in my research is the dust jacket artwork itself. Early releases of the Holdorf Stand, under the jacket, the book has the exact same style as the first edition, complete and uncut. So new dust jacket, potentially second edition, I'm not sure. And Pet Sematary in 1993 finally gets looped in to this group and also has new dust jacket artwork, completely new boards, cloth, design, and styling. So that might be considered the second edition of Pet Sematary. I've never heard anyone definitively say, it's not written in the books, like this is boom, third edition, second edition. But that's one way you could look at it. What makes it more confusing is the print runs and the number lines on the Phiesens and the Holdorfs. I don't know if they started over again at one. I don't know if they just kept right on going with Phiesen and with Holdorf. And if that's the case, then Doubleday would not consider the Phiesens and the Holdorfs to be different editions, but simply further printings of the first edition. So when I see a Phiesen and the number line, the lowest number is like 13, I think these books were only published, they were only available for about 3 years. So could they really have had 13 printings? Or is that going back to the original printing, say, of Carrie from 1974? By 1990, were they up to the 13th printing? I don't really know. It gets confusing. I'm not going to delve too much into that. If you're an expert on Phiesen and Holdorf and you have some clarity to provide on the printings, please do so in the comments. Unlike the Phiesen, which were only available for a relatively brief window, the Holdorf, I'm not sure if they are currently still in print, but they are still readily available at places like Amazon. And they have been re-released and reprinted many, many, many times over the past 30 years. So I think the style has changed somewhat as it has gone on. So for instance, I have seen older Holdorfs where the spine is covered in actual cloth. I've seen later Holdorfs where the entire boards and spine of the book are covered basically in in paper. So there is no cloth. So they've been subtly adapting the style of the Holdorfs as they have gone on, but they are still readily available. They are easily found, and with the exception of Pet Sematary, which I will talk about in a minute, I would say if you find any of these books in really, really nice shape, I'm thinking list price or less. So like 35 bucks or less, I think would be a good deal. 20 bucks would be a real sweet spot. The more wear and tear to the books and to the jackets, obviously, they go farther and farther down in value. They are cool. It's interesting to have the whole set. I've never been a huge fan of the Holdorf artwork personally, but it does look neat to have all six matching on the shelf. For some reason, I don't know if it's because it was released in a far smaller quantity or for a far smaller window of time, but the Holdorf Pet Sematary is really, really challenging to find for a good price. There, I just looked, and on eBay you can get true first editions of Pet Sematary, which to me has this iconic artwork. It's an essential part of your first edition collection. You can get really nice ones for $125, $150. I mean, in great shape. And there was one from a seller that often prices things kind of high, granted, but there was one of the Holdorf Pet Cemeteries for $350, and it was not in mint condition. So I'm I'm assuming, again, I don't know why Pet Cemetery is so much rarer or more valuable, but it is. And if you happen upon a Holdorf Pet Cemetery just out in the wild for like 20, 25 or less, I'm always thinking if I go to a half price books, I may just find one randomly on the shelf for 15 bucks or 10 bucks. That would be a tremendous deal and well worth picking up. In fact, a Holdorf Pet Cemetery for probably $100 or less, you would be getting a good deal. So that is the single dramatic outlier in this whole batch of books, the Phiesens and the Holdorfs. The Holdorf Pet Sematary is by far the hardest to find and the most valuable. Again, these books are not that rare, not that hard to find, except for Pet Sematary. So you'll probably have seen these around. in your bookstore shopping and you're in the wild treasure hunts. And whether if you are an expert on these books and you know exactly the publication history, the print run history, the edition history, whatever, please put your knowledge in the comments for the benefit of everybody. I do not claim to be an expert on these, but in this video I've shared what I have learned through digging and through research and just through sort of osmosis over the years of collecting. If you are brand new to these and you've seen them, you've heard of them, but you didn't know anything about them, I hope that this video has been helpful. Again, collect what appeals to you. And if you feel the desire to collect something, that makes it collectible. So these books are not as valuable by a long shot as the first editions, but they are also priced at a level that is far more accessible to far more people. So anyway, thank you as always for your time, for your support, and I really appreciate it. And until next time, take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you later. Bye.